if you can believe it, there's actually still more to talk about, huh? So with that said, last time we left off, I had talked over about how was there anything during that time I was actually in special ed at Horseheads before I went to Trinity College and therefore no longer contemplated suicide. If there was anything I looked fondly back on. And the short answer is yes, but none of that had anything to do with special ed at all. In fact, more often than not, special ed would ruin a lot of things. But the one thing I definitely talked about last time was, or it wasn't last time, but it was definitely actually a week ago today. I talked over how between the 1 year I had at Trinity College and my senior year at Horseheads, when I was no longer in special ed, I really only had 2 good years of high school. And if we're including middle school and high school, that's 7 years. That's essentially 5 years I'll never get back. Actually, 5.5 because of the 2 summers I did Summer Science Institute, in which after I took Earth Science class during the day in the summer, I had to go back for special ed later. So I had to put up with that during the summer too. So, again, 5.5 to 2, that's not a good ratio. And therein lies the ultimate problem. The thing about high school that most people never give enough credit for is, yes, you go to school, and yes, you get educated, and yeah, you're supposed to make some good memories along the way. But the one thing no one really emphasizes is the fact that high school is supposed to prepare you for the real world, which is very detrimental when you're in a room in which they quote unquote try to prepare you for the real world. Meanwhile, they don't let you go out and do any of the stuff they tell you. Listen, I talked about this the other day, but there really is a reason why the special education system is pure garbage. Everyone knows that. So, needless to say, by the time I graduated from Trinity College, I could not have been more ill-prepared to take on the real world. Like, I needed a lot more than just 2 good years of, getting ready for the real world. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I went to Trinity College. Because of those 5 years I'll never get back, I like to say I got at least one of them back. So, yeah, it's essentially, well, to be honest, I decided that I was going to give it maybe 3.5 altogether, or maybe bring it down to 3. No, that's what I did. I brought it down to 3 bad years because, there was a Summer Science Institute, but at Trinity College went to school on Saturday, so I think it cancels each other out. So, yeah, that's 3 years of just no way. All right, I should probably explain. When I did 7 years altogether, I'm also including 7th and 8th grade. So, yeah, 2 years in middle school, 4 years of high school, 1 year at Trinity College, that's 7. So that's where I got the math from. But I remember when I did the math a week ago, it was high school related. So let's just pretend that I really am meaning, 7th and 8th grade. So yeah, It's only that's 3 bad years, but only 2 really good years. And frankly, I need a lot more than that. At this point, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about this particular part again? It's because deep down, as much as I didn't want to admit it, I was terrified to be out in the real world, especially in college. I mean, I knew how to take care of myself, to some degree. If I had to get something to eat, I got something to eat. If I felt like I had to sleep, I had to sleep. And then there's the part about going to college, which was where I figured out the ultimate, reason why, special education is horrible. And that's because I'm having a great time at college. People are liking me and accepting me, so where's the disconnect? Well, not special ed in college. There also wasn't any special ed training calling either, so there you go. And it really showed how ill-prepared I was, because I was not a very good student when I was in college. Now, I'm probably making it sound a lot worse than it really is, because I did everything I pretty much did the minimum of what I had to do. I went to all my classes, I took all my notes, participated whenever I could, I obviously never missed a class, and if I had homework to do, I did it. But what really hurt me was studying. In truth, I really am that kind of person who, I just had to deal with this stuff during the day. I don't want to have to put up with it at night either. So, yeah, I was just never a good studier. And it really showed. On no less than 2 separate occasions in my 4 years at Gettysburg College, I was very close to flunking out. Which actually here's the thing. At the end of the day, I still had to study, but it really also does show just how good of, help that the good folks at Gettysburg College will do for you if, you need it. There's like this one counselor I would see weekly, go over everything, see how everything is, stuff like that. There was also, wrestling never really panned out for me. But, I still had, cross country and track. And if you've ever done cross country and track, even if you're horrible at running, I would still recommend you do it because you meet some really nice people. What can I say? Runners are just really nice people. Sorry, I yawned there. I said runners are just really nice people. But again, it doesn't really mean anything when you're constantly worried about, am I going to flunk out of college? Which somehow, by the grace of God, I managed to graduate on time. Without question, the turning point for me when it came to graduating from college was when I had to retake anatomy and physiology. So this would have been, I would say that the turning point for me had to have been second semester junior year, when, especially in my major, I took the second half of anatomy and physiology and did a lot better in that. I mean, I didn't do so well in the first, I didn't do so well in anatomy and physiology 1. So I had to retake that fall semester senior year. But to say spring semester junior, that's when things started really turning around for me. And then we get to, fall of senior year. I retook anatomy and physiology, and if you've ever, I presume a bunch of you have been to college, but if you've never been to college before, how it works is naturally you're not going to know what your grade is until later, specifically when you're home for, because after you take your finals. So on this day, 10 years ago, I remember constantly looking at my grades, specifically for anatomy and physiology. And when it finally showed up, I got an 89 on the final. Which, yeah, I know, it doesn't really sound that great, but you have to remember, I don't like to study, I don't like to read. This was a gift from God for me. And I remember just being over the moon. Like, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Chuck Conway fan. Occasionally you hear Chuck Conway say, "Oh, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you?" Like, that was me. I'm like, "Oh, where are you at? Where are you at?" Like, I was over the moon. My mom was extremely happy for me. Like, things really could not have gone better. But if there's one fact of life I'm pretty sure we're all aware of, it's for every one good thing that has to happen in your life, there needs to be something horrible to compensate for it. Which is why on this very day, 10 years ago, the one thing I thought would never happen, happened. Now, if you remember, when I went to Trinity Pauling, after Andrew Einstein passed away, and I talked about that, the one thing I didn't mention was, I can only hope and pray it'll be a very long time before something like this happens again. And just over 4 years and 6 days later, on December 20th, 2012, it did happen again. I lost another one of my brothers from Trinity Pauling. His name was Sean Bertanza. And what's even freakier is I knew this person rather well. The first time I ever met Sean at Trinity Pauling was, he was in my English class at Trinity Pauling. But where I really got to meet him proper and get to know him a little more, as well as all of us did, was cross-country practice. And I just want to say, our cross-country team really accepted anyone who just wanted to do it and come out of the woodwork. Because I had just established making the top 7 at Trinity Pauling's cross-country team, which, again, I was a lineman at Horseheads. The fact that I had no business even doing cross-country, and I made the top 7. You can imagine how extremely proud I was. You can also imagine how extremely annoyed I was when we kept accepting anyone and everyone who came out of the woodwork to want to run cross-country. Especially when, in the case of Sean Bertanza, he was really, really, really good. He actually wound up being the 3rd fastest runner on the team. Yeah, by the grace of God, I still barely just made the top 7. But Sean was just a really, really nice guy. I couldn't even be mad because Sean was just a really nice guy. He was. And cross country wasn't even the sport he was there for. He was really there for basketball, which, having seen him play, I can tell you, because my basketball terminology really isn't as great as it ought to be. In fact, one of the only things I still know are all the positions, the 1-man, the 5-man, but they have names too, because I believe the 1 is the point guard, 2 is the shooting guard, 3 and 4 are usually forwards, and 5 is either another forward or a center. In regards to a shooting guard, Sean Bertanza was one of the greatest shooting guards I've ever seen. At worst, he was 5 for 9 on threes. That's how good he was. No kidding. One of the coolest things about Sean was he actually had an afro. A white guy with an afro. Cool, huh? There was one time in the English class where, because again, Sean was a shooting guard. I think he was a shooting guard. He looked like he was a shooting guard. I mean, but you don't shoot that. You don't shoot at least 5 for 9 threes and not be considered a shooting guard. I don't know. Anyway, so we're in English class one time, and we're going over. We're talking about. Again, this is English class, but this is Trinity Calling. We're a bunch of guys. Any opportunity that seems appropriate, we're just going to be shooting skeet and having a good time. And one such good time was we're talking about Sean, how he was really good at playing basketball. And then my English teacher, who was also my wrestling coach at Trinity Pauling, was saying, hey, if you don't shoot 5 for 9 on threes, you'll have to shave your afro. For the record, there's a reason why I keep emphasizing the afro, because if there's one thing I know as a One Piece fan, afros are cool. They're right up there with sunglasses and bow ties, okay? Afros are cool. In fact, I'd like to believe that the reason why Sean was great at running cross country was because of afro power. That's how it works. Eventually, he would shave off his afro, but actually, did he shave because he lost that bet? I don't know. No, I think he shaved it off because he just felt like doing it. Which, I mean, to each their own. But I tell you what though, man, that afro was so cool. Like, it wasn't like obnoxiously big, like up to here. It was actually more like maybe out here, I guess. But right, a white guy with an afro, you never see that. You just never see that. But yeah, on this day 10 years ago, when I had gotten the news that Sean had died, I just couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. I mean, look, I know at this point, people will come and go, and sometimes when they go, it sadly comes in the form of passing on. But I never thought it would ever happen just 4 years later. And the thing is, Sean Bertanza, he was a PG just like I was. He was set to graduate from college like 2012, 2013. That was his senior year. That was my senior year at Gainesville. So it just one semester to go from college, and he passed away. It was I still can't believe it happened, even now. Because of anyone, I never would have suspected. I mean, let's be honest, no one ever expects to die anyway. But not Sean. Especially when, at the time, I learned that his cause of death was him dying in his sleep. Which, as a health science major at Gettysburg College, it did kind of interest me, like, what specifically happened inside his body. I mean, a person doesn't just die in their sleep. You know, something needs to happen. You know, maybe he had a brain aneurysm, maybe his lungs collapsed, maybe there was just really, really, really bad internal bleeding and no one noticed. Something along those lines. A few years later, I actually, because I'm actually friends with Sean's mom on Facebook, and she told me that Sean had something called Wolff-Parkinson's-White syndrome. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, in Sean's case, he just had a very weak heartbeat. So, long story short, in his sleep, his heart gave out. Which actually kind of intrigued me more, because my capstone, aka my final project for my major at Gettysburg College, was doing an internship on cardiac rehab. So this really astounded me. I just couldn't believe it. So, as of right now, in my graduating class, of the 89, well, really there was 90, but one that left because I think he got accepted into college early. There were 89 students that were postgraduates, that were seniors, that were either seniors or postgraduates at Trinity Pauling. Of that 89, to my knowledge, only 87 are left. In the case of the students who ran cross country, we had many people of all grades, but of those that made the top 7, 3 of them were postgraduates. Of those 3, only one of them is still alive. And you're looking at him. Yeah. You know, I really do want to believe that, you know, life works in mysterious ways. And I really want to believe that in the time since I made that fatal mistake back in March of 2003 by saying, you know, I'm going to kill you to those kids that were mean to me. I really do want to believe that I've come pretty far. You know, I got my education. I graduated from college. I've ran 4 marathons. I rode 4 100-mile bike rides for charity. I got to see my brother, well, obviously I got to see my brother graduate college, but in college, he met the woman he would eventually marry and start a family with. I got to see all that. And even when I wind up reminding myself that I was able to accomplish all that, I got to see that for myself. All I wind up doing is feeling horrible that I can't believe I forgot all that. When I really shouldn't have. I mean, it's really only in recent times when I've only just begun to feel happy again. And yes, it is largely due to how I was no longer believe that I'm on the spectrum. But since August of 2021, this has probably been the happiest I think I've ever been in my life. Because I learned how to express myself much more, how to become more transparent, how to not just say the right things, but also really feel like I have genuine, belief in it. And not just saying things that just because they're actually, I always took pride in doing things because it was the right thing to do and being honest and everything and trying to own up to any of the mistakes I made. But the truth is, man, life is hard. It's scary. And even having been over 14 years removed from being in that special education room, it terrifies me that, holy cow, I'm living on my own. What am I going to do? I mean, I still really do believe in the process of, just trying to be a good person and good things come for you. And I like to believe it. I really do want to say it has worked. It legitimately has worked on many occasions. Whether it's I made pickles for a few friends of mine, or help my parents take care of my nephews when my brother and his wife are out doing shopping and stuff like that. And there really have been many worthwhile experiences. And maybe this is the depression thing, but I always struggle to really see that for what it is. And be more appreciative of it, I should say. I'll make sure. This is a very important part. I should try and speak a little more clearly. Like Andrew Einstein before him, it's actually on my bucket list to go to the state of Connecticut, because that's where Sean Bertanza is from. He's from Connecticut. Go to his gravesite and bring him a bouquet of flowers and put on his gravesite. And like for Andrew Einstein, I would also have that bouquet of flowers be the state flower of Connecticut, which is the mountain laurel. It's a very pretty purple flower, very nice. I guess it's kind of, the color is like more lavender, I believe. But you'll have to look to see for yourself. A fun fact about the mountain laurel too. The mountain laurel is actually the state flower of not one, but two states. Yeah, it's the state flower of Connecticut, and it's also the state flower of Pennsylvania. For those of you who are really wondering, the state flower of New York is the red rose. So, there you go. Just a fun fact for anyone. And like Andrew Einstein, it's on my bucket list to do the following. Place that bouquet of mountain laurels at his gravesite, and I would utter that traditional Irish blessing. The one that more often than not gets me. The very Irish blessing that was said at my cousin's wedding back in November, which is what ultimately made me cry. And then I would say it. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be ever at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall softly on your fields. And until we meet again, may the Lord hold you in the palm of his hand. To this day, it really still bothers me that my life really has come to this. How my parents putting me in special education really took a lot more away from me than I think even they were expecting. To the point where when I realized it, there was that 2.5-year period of time where I would utterly refuse to say I love you, my mom and dad. Trust me, I'm not proud of it. It's horrible. It's even worse when all I could say whenever they said I love you to me is okay. Because all I'm doing is just acknowledging that I heard what they said and nothing more. And there's no feeling or emotion behind it. And this is coming from a guy who many years ago, even now, was terrified about, if in the future I'm on my own, I'm going to wind up forgetting the important things. Now, I want to make one thing clear. When I say forgetting the important things, I'm not talking about finding a job or being able to pay, rent and stuff. I knew I was going to do that. I've always been just confident enough to know I had to do that and, take care of that. When I say I'm worried about forgetting the important things, I mean the things that truly matter in life. Like, what if I forget my own name? Or what if I forget my family? Or when my birthday is? I once talked to my mom about this years and years and years ago, before any of the special education things or any nonsense or any of that. I told her, Mom, I'm actually worried that I'll forget something really important, like my name or my birthday. And then my mom, I tell you what, I can be mad at my mom at times, but trust me, she just sometimes knows what to say. She said, Nick, you're not going to forget any of that. Because if you ever do, you're going to call me. I'll pick up the phone and I'll answer any question you have for me. I'll say anything you want to hear. Which makes it all the more sad when even later I would realize at some point my mom was no longer going to be in my life. As mad as I am, even to this day, about my mom and dad putting me in special ed, and as much as I don't want to believe it, I can tell you for a fact that no one will be more shocked or sad when my parents die than I will be. And anyone who would potentially see me, I'll probably be able to shrug it off. I'll probably, look as if, I stay strong, but if that winds up happening, I'll be putting a Herculean effort into it. Because you can't have anything like that happen and not be faced by it. The only thing I'll be able to do, should that happen, is if I'm ever in any kind of trouble, or there's any kind of doubt that I have, I'm going to think hard and really try and listen to their voices for guidance. Because sometimes that really is all we have. We meet many people in our lives, extraordinary people, people that you will forever be glad you met. And we do tend to think about them whenever we're feeling sad because, it makes us feel better. So, for sure today, I'm definitely going to find my parents and tell them I love them. It's pretty obvious. I've been able to tell my folks I love them again for years now. But it's the fact that it came to that, me not saying I love them for like 2.5 years. That's how bad it got. And at the end of the day, I get to do that. Because now I'm still here. I could have ended it in January 2009, but I didn't. Believe me, something as horrible as Sean Bertanza passing away, especially after I just, really all I had to do was just have one more decent semester of college and then I graduate. That really is the classic, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. It's balanced, Or, you know what? I'm just going to stop there. I'll finish this up tomorrow. But I can definitely say this. Of the things I've learned since I stopped contemplating suicide, the most important thing, yet also the most difficult thing that we have trouble remembering, is that no matter what life goes on, trust me, I know that the day I finally kick the bucket myself, the world won't stop spinning. But I like to believe that when I die, I'll die knowing I met a lot of really great people. And maybe in some way I impacted them the way they impacted me. And I guess there is some comfort knowing that life really does, there is comfort knowing that life goes on. Because the future of our world is just so fascinating. Because we don't know. It's the one thing that's unknown that we look to with both cautiousness and optimism. Unfortunately, unless something happens, we don't know. But I do know this. Talking about your feelings is one of the greatest things you can do for yourself. I mean, I'm doing it right now, aren't I? And I really do feel a lot better. So, for now, I'll just prepare for tomorrow. Because there's one more why I'm still here video to do. But until then, I just want to mention how I am beyond humbled that I was able to share all this with you today. I am beyond hopeful that you listen to what I had to say here and try and use that to help you, especially in a time of year where more often than not, we need it. And should you not take that message, that's fine. I'm not expecting everyone to hear this and have it be like the whole my word is law thing. And if you don't, I hope you have a nice day anyway. Thank you.